In globalization, the effective operation of a business is dependent on several elements, but the most important one is still product safety and high quality. Nowadays, the most appropriate quality control system for the food industry is hazard analysis and critical control points, which is HACCP. HACCP approach focuses on the production system of a certain product group and evaluates the presence of specific hazards occurring in the product manufacturing chain, which are significant in terms of assuring external consumer safety. Apart from that, improperly controlled HACCP plan will pose a danger of discomfort and result in an inadequate final output. This study aims to demonstrate HACCP application in a bakery product manufacturing business.
Our company name Inafi Bakers Sdn Bhd. Inafi Bakers offers a one-stop factory for a bakery product such as bread and jams. The service businesses ensure that consumers receive freshly made bread and jam at a reasonable price and high quality. The enterprise group vary in design, shape, texture, flavor and size. This company caters to consumer various needs and preferences. The business is called Inafi Bakers after its two proprietors, Afrina and Hafi. Product Inafi Bakers is well known for its delivery fruit jam, which is in high demand due to its taste and ease of usage, a ready-to-eat product.
Inafi Bakers Sdn Bhd vision is to become the leading firm in the baking and associated bakery industry. It is renowned and emulated for producing high-quality goods that welcome consumers. Every employee, investor, trade partner, and stakeholder is proud of it. For the mission, the company mission is to provide the greatest quality range of great tasting bakery products to consumers through world-class production facilities and an efficient countrywide distribution network, while also giving a fair return on shareholder investment. For the objective, given its existing position in the market, the group believes Inafi Bakers Sdn Bhd purposely should be expansionary by bringing in a committed consumer and producing a consistent sale volume.
So this is Inafi Bakers logo. In this company, a combination mark logo, the company name and a symbol are included along with the emblem or word mark of I and F. This is one of the most popular types of logo used by businesses since it is comprehensive and can help to establish a strong brand identity, as Inafi Bakers company is just starting out for 5 years in the industry.
In terms of packaging, a square-bodied glass cylinder with a screw-top lid known as a Victorian jar is used by Inafi Bakers for the berry fruit jam to entice people. The jar evokes elegance and has 4 unique sides that are ideal for several labeling options. It only needs a label, which is typically where the design comes in. Additionally, the bottle shape allows it to store the most amount of content while using the least amount of shelf and storage space.
The next is product description. The product's name is the berry jam fruit, which is the combination from dragon fruit and strawberry. The shelf life for this product is 12 months shelf life after the made of this the berry jam. The packaging, we use Victorian jars because the jars is very attractive and good for storage. The intended use and consumer is the product is ready to eat products and home use, and the price is retail sale.
For the source of raw material, manufacturers often rely on raw materials provided to complete this operation efficiently. This supplier collects natural resources or other raw materials and transport them to manufacturers and other manufacturers. For the red star rhubarb, dragon fruit and strawberry, it is the source from the S&I Fruits Wholesale Sdn Bhd. It is used for flavoring and coloring, and the condition is usually sourced and processed in the factory before, and the weight is 5 kg per box. For the sugar, Inafi Bakers Sdn Bhd choose Syarikat Kilang Gula Tanah Melayu Berhad Perai Pulau Pinang. for the act as a sweetener, preservative, texture modifier, fermentation, substrate, flavoring, and it is sourced and processed in the factory before. The weight is 1 kg per packet, sold in carton. For the liquid pectin, we get the sources from Hong Yap Trading Company that use for thickening agent, which are processed in the factory before, and it is provide 3 liter per bottle. For the jars, the supplier is ENC Packaging Enterprise Butterworth Penang for high quality glass with 4 equal size and subtle rounded edge used for packaging the products. The condition is sourced and processed in the factory before also, and the size is Victoria 6, which is weight of 6 oz with 119 ml Victorian square glass jar with silver lid.
The next is company organizational chart. We have owners, followed by general manager, assistant manager, quality manager, production manager or supervisor, and then production department, packaging department, and storage department. The top level hierarchy of this organization is led by managers who are responsible for planning and making strategic choices, transmitting decisions to employees, and supervising implementation of this decision. They are also in charge of completion. Furthermore, activity coordination and specialization are centralized. Its managers are in charge of task coordination and specialization inside the organization. To fulfill its objective, this corporation must split its operation into functional departments and have several levels of responsibility.
This is the flow chart of the berry fruit jam. There are 13 flow process of manufacturing the berry fruit jam, start off receiving, storing, preparing, cooking, which is boiling method, and then back to storing, labeling, pH testing for the critical control point, and shelf storage or display for the finished product.
The next is HACCP plan and scope for the berry fruit jam. We have 7 principles. Principle number 1 is analysis of hazard assessment. Principle number 2, determine critical control points. Principle 3, establish critical limits for CCP. Principle 4, establish monitoring procedures for CCP. Principle 5, establish corrective action. Principle 6, establish verification procedures. And lastly, Principle 7, establish record keeping system.
In view of the foregoing, the next session will attempt to follow the Codex logical order to develop on a HACCP system for an berry jam fruit producing factory. For the first flow, which is receiving fruits, the hazard that can occur is the biological hazard, which is Clostridium botulinum. From this, we can say the critical limit occurs as it is usually the presence of mold infestation in fruit lots. To monitor the HACCP plan, we start with what to do, such as assessment of a lot or supplier assessment and certificate of conformance from supplier. We can visual inspection the presence of signed certification from the supplier of each batch for frequency by the purchasing manager. We will use the receiving log for record and microbe analysis of fruit for the verification. The receiving flow in this HACCP plan is divided into 2, which are receiving dry ingredients and receiving packaging material. Both flow can be identified in hazard of chemical, which is deleterious chemical, and physical hazard, which is foreign material. From this, we can say the critical limit must be controlled at a critical control point to prevent crush or broke ingredients and packaging materials. We need to assess a lot of supplier assessment and certificate of conformance from supplier. Visual inspection the presence of signed certificate from the supplier of each batch for frequency by the purchasing manager, and also each batch by purchasing managers. If it occurs, the corrective action we can do is rejection of complying ingredients by record in receiving log and use microbe. It also can be used by chemical analysis of dry ingredients and packaging materials.
The next CCP is cold storage of fruits that have identified hazard. For this is biology, is Clostridium botulinum. The critical limit for cold storage of fruit is refrigerated product at 32 Fahrenheit or less. The corrective action for cold storage of fruits is adjusting temperature of, or if needed, discard all spoilage materials. The record will use storeroom record form. The verification of cold storage of fruits is storeroom records will be reviewed for meeting CCP, signed by PIC prior to product being offered for sale. The next CCP is storage of dry ingredients and storage of packaging materials. The identify hazard that have chemical and physical. For the chemical is chemical contaminants and for the physical is foreign material. The critical limits for this CCP is the ideal storeroom temperature is 10 Celsius to 15 Celsius and no sign of spoilage and chemical contaminations. The corrective action for this CCP is discard all spoilage materials. The record will use storeroom record form, and the verification of this CCP is storeroom record will be reviewed for meeting CCP, signed and dated by PIC prior to product being offered for sale. The next CCP is prepare fruits. The identified hazard for this CCP is biology, such as Clostridium botulinum. The critical limit of this CCP is no sign of spoilage and use clean of utensils. The corrective action for prepared fruits is discard the spoilage raw ingredients and rewash the utensils. The records will be used corrective action record form, and the verification for prepared fruit is production log microbe analysis document.
Next, for the preparation of the dry ingredients for process, there are two hazards identified such as chemical. It is a chemical contaminants and physical hazardous, which is foreign material. We need to make sure no sign of chemical contamination and foreign material by using clean utensils for critical limits and monitoring cleanliness of utensils and personal hygiene by visual checking for each batch and completely done by designated food workers. The worker may discard the spoilage raw ingredients and rewash the utensils and fill the corrective action record and verification from production log microbe analysis document to ensure that the HACCP system is operating according to the plan. Then, weigh or measure dry ingredients for process on HACCP plan will identify hazards of biological hazard, which is pathogens that can cause of Clostridium botulinum, and chemical hazard, which is nitrates. The critical limits on this flow is control the excessive nitrates in fruits where we can monitor weight of cure added to mixture. This can be using digital scale E for each batch performed by designated food worker. They need to adjust cure weight and record in batch record log. The digital scale will be certified annually and have stamp of certification with food scale accuracy log. The verification of batch records will be reviewed for meeting critical control point, signed and dated by person in charge prior to product being offered for sale, and digital scale will be certified annually.
The next CCP for the berry fruit jam is mashed dragon fruit, strawberries and chopped rhubarbs. The identified hazard for this CCP is physical, such as metal. The critical limit for this CCP is metal contamination on cracked utensils item. The corrective action for mashed dragon fruit, strawberries and chopped rhubarbs is rejection of non-compliant utensils. The record will use batch record log, and the verification will use for PIC verifies proper steps. The next CCP for this is mixed ingredients. The identified hazard is physical, like metal. The critical limits for this CCP is metal contamination on cracked utensils item. The corrective action for mixed ingredient is adjust time and condition mixing. The records will be used for batch record log, and the verification for mixed ingredient is PIC verifies proper mix. The next for the berry fruit jams CCP is boiled ingredients. The identify hazards for this is biology, survival bacterial, spores, molds and toxins. The critical limit for boiled ingredients is temperature of 105 Celsius for 15 minutes. The corrective action for boiled ingredients is rework reheat over extended period. The records will use the temperature log. And the verification for boiled ingredient is food worker records temperature or PIC verifies proper temperature.
During the fill jar process, biological hazards such as Clostridium botulinum can be found. From this, we can identify the critical limit by low cleaning agent concentration in the rinse water. What to monitor is the predict or batch of cleaning agent concentration in rinse water and make sealing efficiency test. How to do it can be done by outside rinse water concentration measurement for each batch and done by quality assurance official. They need to have laboratory analysis results and record in production log microbe analysis document and get verification from microbe analysis of product. Wipe rims and secure lids flow. Identify a biological hazard which is Clostridium botulinum. So we need to keep the container clean, and random ATP swabs are used for visual inspection, twice batch performed by the production supervisor. The supervisor can do quarantine suspected for the corrective action and do clean and sterilize the packaging materials, then record in the production log microbe analysis document and have verification of microbe analysis of product and cleaning record log. During the boiling jar flow process, biological hazard may occur by Clostridium botulinum and chemical hazard from allergens. The critical limit should be aware at 180 Fahrenheit or 15 second minimum. We need to take care of temperature of the water, whereas temperature measurement should be taken using a calibrated digital thermometer by each batch and performed by designated food worker. If CCP is not reached after boiling the jars, continue to boil until CCP is reached monthly. The designated food worker should fill the batch record log and thermometer calibration for log decimeter thermometer will be calibrated and recorded weekly.
The next CCP for berry fruit jam is storage. The identify hazard being classified for biology such as pathogens, Clostridium botulinum, and the critical limit for storage is refrigerated product at 41 Fahrenheit or less. The corrective action for storage is maintain record package and label product will be monitored for time and temperature control. The record will be used for storeroom record form. The verification for storage is storeroom record will be reviewed for meeting CCP, signed and date by PIC prior to product being offered for sale. The next CCP for the berry fruit jam is labeling. The identifier hazard is biology and chemical. The biology is for Clostridium botulinum and chemical is allergens. The critical limits for labeling is metal contamination, packaging suppliers, and improperly labeled products. The corrective action for labeling is labeled product will be monitored for time and eliminate cause of deviations. The record will be used for batch record log and labeling log. The verification for labeling is labeling log will be reviewed daily by the PIC.
For the pH testing, biological hazard identified by pathogen which is Clostridium botulinum. The critical limit should be pH of 4.6 or below pH of finished product. It can use a pH meter and follow standard of procedure for preparing product slurry, the calibrating pH meter and testing pH. Do all of it in each batch and should be performed by a designated food worker. If product slurry does not meet the critical limit, the batch will be discarded. Then the company should identify and retrain employees on how to ensure that critical limits are met. They need to record corrective action on the thermal processing and pH testing log thermal processing. pH testing and labeling log PIC will review all record within 7 days of completion. Make sure all employees will use and maintain equipment per manufacturer's specifications. Last but not least is shelf storage or display of finished product flow process. It identifies biological hazards which occur by pathogen, namely Listeria, Clostridium botulinum. It should be refrigerated product at 41 Fahrenheit or less for cooler temperature will be monitored by using thermometers or digital temperature monitoring device daily. It should be performed by designated food worker as a rule and should be immediately discard product if temperature exceeds 41 Fahrenheit and identify the cause of deviation. The product storage temperature and labeling log should be recorded and verification of product storage temperature and labeling log will be reviewed daily by the person in charge.
Next is steps to identify hazard and CCPs. Step from food flow diagram. Number 1 is receiving fruits. The potential hazard is biology, Clostridium botulinum. Does this step involve a hazard of sufficient risk and severity to warrant its control? The answer is yes. Justification for decision is pathogen have been found in this fresh fruit. What preventive measure can be applied for the significant hazard? The answer is fruit will be truly clean. Is this step a CCP? The answer is no. The next step is receiving dry ingredients and receiving packaging materials. The potential hazard for this step is chemical, such as deleterious chemicals, and physical, such as foreign material. Does this step involve a hazard of sufficient risk and severity to warrant its control? The answer is no. Justification for decision is dry ingredient will be obtained from reputable vendors and non-food packaging material may have been treated or cleaned with chemicals that are not appropriate for food contact surfaces. The next is what preventive measure can be applied for the significant hazards? The answer is upon receiving, examine the dry components visually and only use for great packaging. Is this step a CCP? The answer is no. The next step is cold storage of fruits. The potential hazard for this step is biology, such as Clostridium botulinum. Does this step involve a hazard of sufficient risk and severity to warrant its control? The answer is yes. Justification for decision is potential growth of pathogens. What preventive measure can be applied for the significant hazards? Before usage, all fruits will be cleaned. Is this step a CCP? The answer is no.
For the storage of dry ingredients and storage of packaging materials, the hazard identified by two which are chemical hazardous, which is chemical contaminants, and physical by foreign material. Does this step involve a hazard of sufficient risk and severity to warrant its control? Is no, as the chemical hazard is a proper storage reduce the possibility of contamination and physical hazard. This is because visible foreign material that may endanger product safety, which is rat droppings or insects. What preventative measures can be applied for the significant hazard can be done by store all chemicals separately from dry ingredients and packaging materials. We should do inspection regularly to ensure there is no foreign material. Therefore, we can say the step is not a critical control point. For prepare fruits, it is sort, wash fully ripe dragon fruit, strawberry, rhubarb and remove stems and caps can trigger biological hazard, which is Clostridium botulinum happen, and it involves hazard as the potential interaction or growth of pathogen, and fruit should be washed before cooking and follow standard of procedure for hand washing and cleaning of equipment. It is considered as not a step of critical control point. It differs with flow of prepared dry ingredients, where this occur by chemical contamination and physical hazard, which considered not involve hazard sufficient risk, as chemical hazard is a proper chemical storage reduce the possibility of contamination, but physical hazards such as visible foreign material may endanger product safety, such as rat droppings and insects. So for chemical, it should be stored at all chemicals separately from the dry ingredients and packaging materials. Meanwhile, physical hazard must do inspection regularly to ensure there is no foreign material. Therefore, it considered as no step of critical control point.
The next step is weight or measure dry ingredients. The potential hazard for this step is biology, such as pathogen, Clostridium botulinum, and chemical is nitrites. Does this step involve a hazard of sufficient risk and severity to warrant its control? The answer is yes. The justification for decision for this step is to ensure safety of the product that was tested at this specific recipe. What preventive measure can be applied for the significant hazards? If recipe is not followed exactly, it will be discarded and the process starts over. Is this step a CCP? The answer is no. The next step for the berry fruit jam is mash dragon fruit, strawberries and chopped rhubarb. The potential hazard is physical, such as metal. Does this step involve a hazard of sufficient risk and severity to warrant its control? The answer is no. The justification for decision is in-house inspection of processing equipment will help safeguard against metal contaminations. What preventive measure can be applied for the significant hazard? The answer is SOPs. Is this step a CCP? The answer is no. The next step for this is mixed ingredients. The potential hazard is physical, such as metal. Does this step involve a hazard of sufficient risk and severity to warrant its control? The answer is no. Justification for decision: in-house inspection of processing equipment will help safeguard against metal contamination. What preventive measure can be applied for the significant hazards? The answer is SOPs. Is this step a CCP? The answer is no. The next step is boil ingredients. The potential hazard for this step is biology, such as Clostridium botulinum. Does this step involve a hazard of sufficient risk and severity to warrant its control? The answer is yes. Justification for decision for this step is potential growth of pathogens. What preventive measure can be applied for the significant hazard? The answer is boil all ingredients to a rolling boil for 1 minute. Is this step a CCP? The answer is no.
For the flow process full jars, the biological hazard is identified, which is Clostridium botulinum occur, and it is involve hazard sufficient risk as fresh fruit is known to contain pathogens. The preventative measure can be applied by filled jars leaving quarters-inch headspace, so it can be considered as not critical control step. Wet rims and secure lids also identified by biological hazard, which Clostridium botulinum triggered and was a hazard sufficient risk because of residue left on the rims will prevent proper sealing of the jars. The preventative measure can be applied by visual inspection of jar to ensure jar rims are clear of any residue, so it will show as not step of critical control point. For boiling jars flows, the same hazard which is biological from Clostridium botulinum. It is potential growth of pathogen due to cross-contamination is likely and can be preventative by boiling jars submerged in boiling water with 1 to 2 inches of water above the lid for 10 minutes at an altitude of 1,000 to 2,000 feet. Even that, it is still can be triggered biological hazard and was found back for the critical control point number 1. Now we look into storage site where it occur by biological hazard by pathogens, which is Clostridium botulinum. It takes time for all portion of the thermally processed product to reach a finished product pH of 4.6 or below. But it can prevent by all jars from each batch will be stored for at least 7 days from the date prepared, so there is no step of critical control point in this flow.
The next step for the berry fruit jam is labeling. The potential hazard for labeling is biology, such as Clostridium botulinum, and chemical is allergens. Does this step involve a hazard of sufficient risk and severity to warrant its control? The answer is yes. Justification for decision for labeling is improperly date-marked product will result in outdated or unsafe products, and improperly labeled product will result in allergen risk. What preventive measures can be applied for the significant hazards? The answer is each package will be properly labeled with shelf life of 12 months. And each package will be properly labeled with ingredient information to include allergens. Is this step a CCP? The answer is no. The next step is pH testing. The potential hazard for pH testing is biology. The biology is pathogen Clostridium botulinum. Does this step involve a hazard of sufficient risk and severity to warrant its control? The answer is yes. The justification for decision for pH testing is finished product pH of 4.6 or below controls the pathogen growth and toxin formations. What preventive measure can be applied for the significant hazards? The answer is finished product pH 4.6 or below. Is this step a CCP? The answer is yes. The next step for the berry fruit jam is discard. The potential hazard for discard is none. So the next step is shelf storage and display of finished products. The potential hazard for this step is physical hazard, such as chemical contaminants. Does this step involve a hazard of sufficient risk and severity to warrant its control? The answer is no. Justification for decision for this step is proper chemical storage makes contamination unlikely. What preventive measures can be applied for this significant hazard? The answer is all chemicals are stored in an area sprayed from jams. Is this step a CCP? The answer is no. Last step for the berry fruit jam is retail sale. The potential hazard for retail sales is non-hazard. So for the other question is not available.
In a conclusion, HACCP is widely used in the food sector to monitor food safety and ensure that items that have been disturbed are not contaminated. Food safety has increased as a result of record keeping, monitoring, setting controls, and removing dangers. HACCP performed an excellent job of establishing rules for quality assurance in the food business. All of these stages work together to ensure the quality of the food produced, and these standards provide customers with confidence in the items they purchase and provide manufacturers with parameters to follow that ensure HACCP perform an excellent job of establishing rules for quality assurance in the food business.